Shapley did in 1962 is they wrote a wonderful paper called College Admissions and the Stability of Marriage. And the question was, what was that paper about? And it was about a simple model of two-sided matching, which they basically talked about as marriage, and college admissions was sort of an afterthought that took some subsequent work to think about. What they said is, how do you match men and women? And what would be, supposing you were trying to match them, what requirements would a match have to have? What they figured out was, if you suggested a match that you wanted people to follow through and marry who you told them to, it had better be stable in the following sense. There shouldn't be two people not married to each other who would both prefer to be married to each other than to who you had told them to be married to. Because if that was the case, they could just marry each other instead of doing what you had suggested. And it turns out that's an important property for many matching markets. And it was the medical administrators, the medical community found a way to do that in 1950. Now then, couples started to appear in the market. And one thing about the medical clearinghouse, the National Resident Matching Program, is it was very successful from its inception. What do I mean by successful? It was a voluntary process. No one had to go through it. But when you looked at, but after a few years, almost all doctors were going through it, and they were being employed at the hospitals that were suggested for them. So that the match was producing a suggestion. You have been matched to the following hospital. A hospital, have been matched with the following students. Please exchange signed contracts and go ahead. And 95% of the jobs were being filled. The students were where they were supposed to be in July. They were working. When couples started to appear, they weren't there in July. They were somewhere else. And the medical match tried to accommodate them. They understood that they were couples who needed two jobs. So the 1970s are culturally a very long time ago. And the way the medical community tried to facilitate couples to help them match to each other is, first the couple had to be certified by its dean as a legitimate couple. Then the couple had to decide that one of the members was the leading member. Then each of the members of the couple submitted a rank order list as if they were single. This is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice. Then the leading member went through the match first, got a job somewhere. Then the other member, the one who wasn't the leading member, had his or her list edited to take out all the jobs that weren't in the city that the leading member had been matched to. And then they would hopefully find a job in the same city for the other member. And that was often successful. They often found them two jobs. But what they found is, when you looked to see if they were in those jobs in July, they weren't there. And what's going on? Well, what's going on is the iron law of marriage, which says that you can't be happier than your spouse. So suppose my wife and I are looking for two jobs. We have as our first choice 2 great jobs in New York, and we have as our second choice 2 great jobs in San Francisco, and as our third choice 2 great jobs in Boston, and as our fourth choice 2 slightly less good jobs somewhere, and so forth. But when you use this 1970s algorithm, what do we get? We get 1 great job in Boston, and 1 not so great job in Boston. The iron law of marriage says we're not happy. So we get on the phone and we call up places in San Francisco and New York, and we say, we just got matched, we're ready to sign our contracts, but we were wondering before we signed whether you had positions for us. And they look at their rank order list and they say, oh, look at that, we could get these guys who are, we're talking to 2 different employers typically. They look at my wife and say, look, we could get Emily. She's better than some of the people we were assigned to match with. And they say to her, sure, we just got an extra position, come on down. And they call up this other poor schmo and they say, you know how deans are, we just had a position cut. Bad news, we can't send you a contract. So this was causing disruption. So what we had to do is we had to restore stability for couples. We had to make sure that we would ask couples what they wanted instead of asking them, what's your first choice, what's your second choice, and what's your spouse's first choice. We'd ask them, what's your first choice as a couple? What pair of jobs would you like best? What's your second choice? What pair of jobs? Now, that presents some mathematical difficulties, but until you ask that question, you can't possibly give couples what they want.